Hey everyone! Today we're diving into the world of forgotten cartoons from the 90s. From wacky adventures to superhero shenanigans, the 90s had it all. So buckle up, grab your favorite sugary cereal, and get ready for a blast from the past as we unearth some cartoon treasures.
We make a wrong turn somewhere? Milo, what is this place?
Alright, who remembers Stanley Ipkiss, a mild-mannered bank clerk by day? But when he slipped on that ancient mask, Zoe. He became the Mask, a green-faced whirlwind of cartoon chaos. The Mask could morph into anything, pull crazy objects out of thin air. It was like watching a Looney Tunes short on Fast Forward. And the voice, oh man, the voice.
Somebody stop me!
It was like Jim Carrey jumped straight out of the movie and into the cartoon. Somebody stop me, classic. But you know what else was great? The show wasn't afraid to be a little bit edgy. Sure, it was goofy and over the top, but it also had some clever writing, and even a few moments of heart. The Mask was one of those shows that perfectly captured the spirit of the 90s. It was wild, it was wacky, and it was a whole lot of fun.
I love the wind in my face hair! Nothing like fresh air!
Speaking of Jim Carrey, how about another dose of 90s comedy gold? Dumb and Dumber the cartoon. A cartoon based on two clueless guys. How'd that work? Surprisingly well. Their shag-carpeted van always got them into trouble. Their schemes? More dumb than dumber, but that was the beauty of it. Their cluelessness made them lovable.
I don't get it. She's singing, but it's still not over.
The animation style was unique, sketchy, almost crude, fitting the show's tone. The voice acting captured the spirit of the characters.
Look at you fiddling around with all these
numbers?
I knew that!
Dumb and Dumber may not have been high art, but it was entertaining. A show to sit back, relax, and laugh at, and sometimes that's all you need. Remember the episode where they tried to become rock stars? Their band, the Shaggy Dogs, was a hilarious disaster. Or the time they played detectives? Their cluelessness was their charm. Fun fact, the animators often improvised scenes adding to the show's quirky feel. And the voice actors? They had a blast, often cracking up during recordings. These behind-the-scenes moments made the show even more special. Dumb and Dumber was a gem of 90s animation, full of heart and humor.
Yeah, a great launch makes me hungry for lunch.
Should be plenty of hot dogs now the loogies are gone. What do you say?
What else?
Now it's time to rev up those engines for some intergalactic biker action. Biker mice from Mars, 3 anthropomorphic mice from Mars, who just happened to be motorcycle enthusiasts. We had Throttle, the cool and collected leader.
Looks like showtime.
Moto, the muscle with a heart of gold.
Little darling! Yeah. My mom always said a mouse's best friend is his bite.
And Vinny, the wisecracking jokester.
You know what they say, the bigger they are, the harder they fall.
Together, they fought to save Earth from all sorts of threats, from evil alien overlords to corrupt businessmen. Their bikes weren't just for show either. These babies were loaded with gadgets and weaponry, perfect for taking on any bad guy who dared to cross their path. Laser beams? Check. Rocket launchers? Check. Self-destruct sequences? Check and check. The show had a great blend of action, humor, and even a touch of environmentalism thrown in for good measure. It taught us that even the smallest of creatures can make a big difference. Plus, it had some pretty rockin' music to boot. Biker Mice from Mars was one of those shows that just screamed 90s cool. It had everything a kid could want in a cartoon action, adventure, humor, and of course, talking mice on motorcycles. What's not to love?
All right, freeze.
Well, he froze. Now
Good question.
Next up, we're heading into the world of Image Comics with the Savage Dragon. This show had it all. A mysterious amnesiac superhero, a gritty urban setting, and awesome creature designs. The dragon himself was a sight to behold. Big, green, and with a fin that rivaled any shark. He used his strength to protect the innocent. The show didn't shy away from darker aspects of superhero life. The dragon faced twisted villains, from mutated criminals to interdimensional conquerors. It was a step up from your average Saturday morning cartoon. But even with all the action, the Savage Dragon had heart. The dragon's relationship with his adopted son was a highlight. The animation style was noteworthy. It had a rough look that captured the gritty tone of the comics. It wasn't always pretty, but it was effective. The Savage Dragon is a unique and often overlooked gem from the 90s animation boom.
might, for right. We are Double Dragon.
Get ready to rumble. It's time for Double Dragon. Now this show had some serious street cred coming straight from the super popular arcade game. We're talking martial arts mayhem, twin brothers fighting for justice, and a whole lot of 90s attitude. You had Billy and Jimmy Lee, masters of the Double Dragon fighting style, taking on the Shadow Master and his criminal empire. The animation was classic 90s action-adventure with those exaggerated movements and dynamic fight scenes. It was like watching the video game come to life, only with more story and character development. Plus, they even worked in elements from the game. Remember those power-ups? The whirlwind kick, the flaming uppercut? Yeah, they were all there, along with some new moves that would make Bruce Lee proud. Double Dragon was a perfect example of how to take a popular video game franchise and turn it into a successful cartoon series. It had all the elements that made the game great, while also expanding on the story and characters. Alrighty then! Time to talk about a cartoon that was all about the laughs! Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. Jim Carrey's over-the-top comedic stylings were practically made for animation.
Knickers in a knot.
Who is this?
He's...
The name's Dover. Bend over.
The show followed the wacky adventures of everyone's favorite pet detective as he tracked down missing critters, solved bizarre mysteries, and generally made a fool of himself in the process. Just like the movie, only more animated. The animation style perfectly captured Carrey's manic energy. Ace was a rubber-limbed, rubber-faced cartoon tornado of zany expressions and physical comedy. And let's not forget about Ace's trusty sidekick, Spike the monkey. He was always there to lend a furry paw, even if he did have a tendency to cause more chaos than he solved. Whether he was sniffing out clues, talking to animals, or just being his usual outrageous self, Ace always brought the laughs. Ace Ventura, Pet Detective was a prime example of 90s cartoon humor at its finest. It was loud, it was wacky, and it never took itself too seriously.
No way! It can't be! What? It's Man-to-Man down in that crater! Man-to-Man?
Next up, we're diving into the world of genetically altered crime fighters with street sharks. 4 teenage brothers transformed into mutant sharks who patrolled the streets, fighting injustice and eating pizza, because why not? You had Jab, the leader with a heart of gold.
Just think of it as a big oversized lizard, yeah.
Ripster, the cool and collected one.
I wonder what Dr. Wackazoid is up to. Guy?
Streaks, the jokester with a need for speed.
That's one small step for man,
And one awesome step for shark kind.
And Slamu, the gentle giant with a knack for smashing things.
Guys, it's just a burger. There's only one way to settle this fairly.
Hey!
Their powers were pretty awesome too. They could bite through steel, swim through concrete, and even shoot water out of their mouths. The show was pure action-packed fun, with the sharks facing off against all sorts of villains, from mutated criminals to evil scientists. It was like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but with sharks. What's not to love? Street Sharks may not have been the most complex or nuanced show out there, but it was a whole lot of fun. It was the kind of show that you could just sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Plus, it taught us the importance of family, teamwork, and always fighting for what's right. Even if you are a mutant shark man.
This is a good thing to chew. It's nice and crunchy, and you can really sink your teeth into it.
Who let the dogs out? Beethoven, that's who. This lovable Saint Bernard stole our hearts in the live-action movies, and then he bounded onto our TV screens in his very own cartoon series. The show followed the misadventures of Beethoven, the big, slobbery, but ultimately good-natured dog, as he got into all sorts of trouble with his human family, the Newtons. But here's the twist. Beethoven could talk. Well, at least to the audience he could. To his family, he was just a regular dog, albeit a very expressive one. This led to all sorts of comedic misunderstandings as Beethoven tried to communicate with his humans. The show was full of heartwarming moments, slapstick humor, and even a few life lessons sprinkled in for good measure. Beethoven may not have been the most action-packed or edgy cartoon out there, but it had a lot of heart. It reminded us that family is important, even when they're driving you crazy.
I know how you feel, Vernie. Oh! Oh! I just hope the reverse isn't true.
Great Scott! We're going back in time with Back to the Future: The Animated Adventures. That's right, the time-traveling escapades of Doc Brown and Marty McFly continued on the small screen. The animated series picked up where the movies left off, with Doc, Marty, and Jennifer, now a permanent fixture in the time-traveling DeLorean, zooming through history, correcting historical inaccuracies, and getting into all sorts of temporal shenanigans. The show did a great job of capturing the spirit of the movies.
No thanks, I found something. Pretty good, whatever it was.
One of Dad's fungus experiments.
With plenty of humor, adventure, and of course, time travel paradoxes. Back to the Future. The animated adventures may not have had the big screen spectacle of the movies, but it more than made up for it with its charm, wit, and boundless imagination.
We've got to do something!
Don't worry, Fuzz Buddy. Fixing toilets is a snap for my 4 hyper-intelligent brains. In a right train.
Last but not least, we're blasting off to Planet Earthworm Jim. This show was out there, man. It was weird, it was wacky, and it was one of the most visually inventive cartoons of the 90s. The show followed the intergalactic adventures of Jim, an ordinary earthworm who was transformed into a superpowered hero thanks to a high-tech suit that fell from space. Groovy indeed. The animation was unlike anything else on television at the time. It was fluid, it was dynamic, and it was full of bizarre and hilarious sight gags. One minute Jim would be stretching his body to impossible lengths, and the next he'd be using his head as a whip. It was pure cartoon chaos in the best way possible. And let's not forget about the supporting cast of characters. There was Peter Puppy, Jim's loyal sidekick who could turn into a giant monstrous beast. Princess What's-Her-Name, the ruler of a distant planet who was constantly being kidnapped. Earthworm Jim was a cult classic that pushed the boundaries of what a cartoon could be. It was a wild, surreal, and unforgettable ride through a universe that could only exist in the minds of animators. So there you have it, a trip down memory lane revisiting some of the forgotten cartoons of the 90s. From wacky comedies to action-packed adventures, these cartoons entertained a generation of kids and left an undeniable mark on pop culture. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments which of these cartoons you remember. See you next time.